All right, hi everyone. Today we're going to be looking at the BPST 3 or the Basic Phonics Skills Test 3 assessment. And this was created by Jake and Emily. So what is the BPST 3? The Basic Phonics Skills Test 3 is an assessment that measures recognition of letter sounds, specific phonics patterns, and blending of single syllable and polysyllabic words out of context. Why is it used? The BPST is a tool for teachers to isolate the phonic sounds students can identify and blend successfully, and then look at the ones that they're having trouble with and help them out with those. So the administration of the BPST3. So in just a minute here, we'll see Jake administering the test, but first you will give the student a copy of the BPST sheet, and the teacher will also have one of their own. They'll begin with letter sound portions of the test, or you can begin with a word list if the individual letter sounds have already been identified or those are not of a concern. You can ask the students to read the sounds and or words aloud from left to right. The words should be blended and not just simply sounded out, so you should be really looking for that they're blending the sounds correctly. You'll record the students' responses with a check mark above the corresponding letter and or sounds on the teacher's scoring sheet. And you should consider stopping if a student is unable to correctly read all or most of the words two consecutively in a row. So the test is going to get harder as it goes on. So when you're seeing students struggling twice in a row, that's a good indication that it is now too hard for the student and you can go ahead and stop the assessment. And do not offer the student any assistance except to ask him or her to move on to the next word as needed. You'll want to make sure that the students are being able to recognize the sounds or the words, and that you aren't helping them to give them any guidance. So this is what the test would look like. You'll start out with the letter sounds, and you'll want to know if they are mispronouncing any sounds. Often students will add like a schwa to the end of sounds, so it would be like t instead of t. So making sure that you are marking those. So you'll want to make sure that you're telling the students to really try and pronounce clearly so that you're able to hear all of those little sounds. If the student is becoming overly frustrated, you can go ahead and end the assessment. And it's always best practice to maybe try again another day and to let the students know that that's perfectly okay. And then again, when you're doing the blending sounds, like in shut, to make sure that the student isn't just sounding out the word, that you're really listening for that sh sound, that they're getting that. For middle and end of year assessments, if they've already completed, say, the first page and you're on to the second page, you do not need to go through each section again if they've already gotten it all correct, but you should go through each section until they do get it all correct. So next we'll go ahead and we'll watch Jake administering the test, and let's see.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me. My name is Jake Sfornavaco. I'm a student at the School of Education at Point Loma Nazarene. And for my EDU 6010 class, Teaching Reading and Writing Methods, I am joined by my brother this evening, Luke. He is 18. He's a high school senior at Cathedral Catholic. We are going to demonstrate one of the best methods for teaching phonics, which is teaching reading, and that is going to be through the BPST test. Now, this stands for Basic Phonics Skills Test. All right. What does the BPST do? This is a tool for teachers to be able to determine whether students are able to isolate letter names and sounds and be able to take that knowledge and to be able to start blending those sounds into pronunciated and read words. So this is a great tool, and we're going to go over how this would work as if Luke were a first or second grade student. Awesome. So as we discussed a little bit earlier, Luke, you are my first or second grade student today, and we are going to go through the basic phonics skills test. So first and foremost, I want to make sure you can tell me the names of all the letters here in the first row.
Yeah, so we got M, S, F, L, R, N, H, V, W, and Z.
Awesome. Now I'm going to hold this up right here. This, you might not be able to see it from here, but we'll have a copy available for you. This is going to be the teacher's copy of this exam. I'm able to mark on here whether or not he is pronouncing everything correctly, he's making the sounds correctly, and that way it's a reference guide so I can provide him feedback later on. Great, you aced those consonants names. Now for the second row, can you please tell me all the sounds of those letters?
Yeah, so we got B, K, D, G, P, T, J, K, E, X, and K.
Awesome. So he went through there. Everything was looking great. I made a mark on the last letter. So I wanted to be able to highlight a common letter that's very difficult, very hard to make the sound for sometimes, even for advanced readers. Even myself, I was questioning the sound of this letter. And that is the letter Q. So he said the letter Q, making the K sound. Now that does sound right, but remember, Q makes more of a qua sound. So this would be something where I would mark, and later on I would follow up with my student, and I would say, okay, let's talk about this letter and the sound that it makes. So moving on, we have, those were all consonants. We're going to talk about our 5 favorite letters, almost the most important, and that are our vowels. So if you could please read these vowels for me, tell me their names as well as the sounds that they make.
Yeah, so we got I, O, A, U, and E, and they go I, O, A, E.
Perfect. So that covers our vowels. And now if my student has a good understanding of both the consonant sounds and the vowel sounds, we can then move down below where we start to blend some of those sounds together into words. Now on the worksheet, on the basic phonics skills test, there's going to be multiple rows of words. I'm going to ask my student to read them from left to right. They're going to get increasingly harder as you go down. So if a student aces that first row, they might have challenges in the second row, and so on and so forth. So if you could please start, Luke, from left to right, reading this first row of words for me, blending those sounds together.
Yeah, so we got van, mop, fell, sun, and fix.
Awesome. Now let's go down to the fourth row.
We got left, must, frog, flip, and snack.
Wonderful. Now, quick example. Let's just say he was reading through these quickly. He's a new young reader. He might see the word frog, and he might forget the FR sound, and he might say fog, which is also a word. I would then circle that, and I would say, okay, we need to remind him about the FR sound, the fr sound. That would make that word frog, and of course not fog. Now let's go to the most advanced, just to show our audience here. Let's read that last row of words for me, please.
Yeah, so we got unflavored, intelligent, organization, convertible, and representative.
Awesome. So we aced those. Obviously, Luke's a great student, so there's no concerns there. But what I want to make sure is, if I'm a teacher giving this test to a first or second grade student, this is a great way for me to assess their understanding of phonics and sounds, as well as provide them feedback. Feedback is so important as we're working with young readers because, you know, there might be a degree of uncertainty as we're learning new sounds and letters and names, and there's so much going on. Feedback, both positive and constructive, is so important for the future of our young readers. And the basic phonics skills test does a great job at showing the proficiency of our readers and their ability to understand letters and the symbols and the sounds that they make and blend those into words. So again, Luke, thank you so much for joining me, and I hope that this was an informative presentation and that you have a great understanding of how this would work in a first or second grade classroom. Thank you.
Yay, thank you, Jake. That was an awesome video. I hope that gave you guys a great understanding of what the assessment would look like giving to a student. All right, so after the assessment, so we now see that we can use the BPST-3 to help us understand the child's level of phonics competency and now to help inform our instruction as teachers. Some students who score low will need additional practice with developing their understanding of phonics. So we now have a lot of data that we're able to use to really pinpoint where we can go ahead and go in and help strengthen those skills for our students at home and also in the classroom. So we can definitely give them some tips of things that parents can help them with doing at home, and then also be pinpointing our instruction in class to help our students keeping improving with phonics. Thank you so much for listening.